Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today for another live stream photo editing session. And as always, I don't like to call this like photo critiquing because I'm not critiquing the photos by any means. I'm simply uh, just editing them the way I would edit them if they were my own pictures. And as always, I welcome your feedback as well in the chat section. So if you have any suggestions or recommendations, because this is a learning process for me as well, on how to edit, and it gets me thinking when I'm out in the field and stuff too about maybe composing a little differently. Because you'll notice, or at least I've noticed in a lot of the live stream editing that I do a lot of cropping to your images, and that's simply a matter of just I don't feel like you're composing in the field like you should be, or thinking about the composition while you're in the field as much. It's better if you can to compose the image, the best you can when you're in the field, so you don't have to do so much cropping after the fact. Because when you start cropping, you start losing detail, you start seeing more noise and grain, and it's just not ideal. So always try to crop or compose your images best you can when you're in the field, and avoid cropping. You also want to avoid doing a lot of exposure compensation, right, in post-processing. You want to try and get the exposure you want while you're in the field. So if you want to expose for the shadows, expose for that. If you want to expose for the highlights, expose for that. And it's a very high dynamic range scene. You have to kind of pick your battles. Do you want the highlights or do you want the shadows? What's going to complement your subject? Like I was talking about this image behind me in the last live stream where I had to pick my battles. The sky is just blown out, but there were some beautiful clouds behind this building. But unfortunately, I didn't expose this properly to capture the clouds the way I wanted. So I exposed for the shadows and the building to have as little noise as possible there. And I just cropped the sky out, so this is a 16 by 9 crop, I think, when I was finally done with it. And just focused on what I thought was the most interesting part of the scene. But anyway, hey Des, how are you? Rick, Paul, good to see you. Bob is back. So a lot of you guys are back from my previous stream. That's awesome. Thanks for joining me here. So as always, I downloaded all the pictures. There was one image that came in as a DNG file, which is a digital negative raw image. Olympus Workspace can't read DNG files for some reason. So if I get a chance at the end, I'll try and convert it to a TIFF file using Photoshop, and then I'll be able to edit it using Olympus Workspace, because Olympus Workspace does see TIFF files, which are effectively raw images. There's not supposed to be any compression. There's some what do you call it? There's something going on because you can save TIFF files 16-bit or 8-bit, 32. I don't know. It has some settings in it that I'm not familiar with. Uh, but I think 16-bit is more than enough for a TIFF file. Okay. Oh, hi, Plato. Let's see. Can Roman send you one of his panning pictures now? Yeah, just send it in. I'll go back and look for it towards the end. Let me get through the images that are here now first, and then we'll go. I'll try and grab a couple more at the end if there's time. I want to try and keep this one down to well under 2 hours because they've been going over 2 hours the last couple times, and I'm happy to stay. But today's such a nice day. I want to get out. Okay, let me set up the screen here, and but yeah, Roman, go ahead and submit. There's a link in the description below where you can submit images. So go ahead and submit it, and I'll try and grab it here. Where's my? There we go. And let me adjust my green screen a little differently. All right, good enough. All right, so in no particular order, let's start up here. And we got, I think, 14 images. There's 15 with the DNG and then maybe one more with Romans. Oh, Yeah, John, I want to watch the SpaceX thing. I'll have to do that tonight though after, it's dark. Oh, thanks, Dave. There is a like button. Like and subscribe, right? I assume most of you are subscribed, or even if you're not, you're sort of a subscriber unofficially, right? Even though you're not subscribed to the channel. Okay, let's see. I feel like I've seen this before. This is one of Bob's images. I think you submit a lot of landscape images here. I mean, they're really nice. This image though, landscapes, this symmetry, I don't think is working for me. I really like, let me punch in. It's pretty much sharp across the frame, which is great. There's some birds back here. This is one for people that don't like objects in the scene. I don't know. I feel like, gosh, there's all kinds of things going on back here. This is a sharp. What is this? This is the Olympus 14 to 54. Wow, this is an old 4/3 lens on an EM1 Mark II. 1/500th of a second, f11. So it's a pretty bright day at ISO 400. I think you could have went ISO 200 on this. But that's interesting. You adapted a 14 to 54. Look how good this lens is. It picked up. Okay, this is not birds. This is dust in the lens, most likely, or on the sensor. But I feel like this is on the lens. I thought maybe there were birds flying around, but now I'm thinking this is dust. That's one of the challenges with shooting at a high aperture, right? Okay. I think exposure-wise, it's perfect. I don't see anything I need to do with exposure. It's already nice and warm. We got good color in the sky. I like the clouds right in here. But I think I would lose this tree. I don't like the feel of the symmetry here in this. I don't think it works here. So it's just a very minor crop here. Maybe let's see. I like this little wisp of clouds. You're a hoarder now, Dave. I like this little wisp of clouds. I think this is the crop I would go with, and then let me see if I can bring the clouds out a little more. So I need the highlights. I don't think I can do it with this one. Yeah, that's not helping. I might have to do it either with contrast or a highlight. And let me try contrast. The clouds just don't have enough presence, but I think this is the direction I would go. And then either clean the sensor or the lens. I think there's a lot of spots here. But this is where I would go with this image. I wish I would use a brush in like Photoshop or something to bring these clouds out a little more. Just a little bit more. I think that's where the action is in this image. Yeah, minimalism. I like it though. I wonder how it would show in black and white. And then put a red filter. that might that might help a little. Let me try green filter. No. A red filter. I think my original. I like the color better. But that's the before and after. Just that wisp of clouds and one tree is all I would do. Yeah, you can submit ORF files, Roman. All right, let's move on. Nice one. Next picture, but nice one, Bob. Like here's an ORF file. Yeah, the color's better, Dave. I agree. Let's see. So here we have a live comp I think they used to get these star trails. I really like that. That's cool. And then the bike's not way overexposed. Well, I guess that's what live comp is for, right? So you don't overexpose the image, but still capture the trails and do a long exposure. Let me look at this full screen and see. Looks like this bike is being worked on because there's kind of this cloth here. This is like one of those camellia claws or whatever they call it. There's bubble wrap over the shock here, so definitely this bike is being cleaned because they're trying to keep the water out of this, or soap and water, I guess, out of there. That. Let me just, if I were to do something, I would probably check. Yeah, it's nice and level. So what's throwing me off? Maybe it's this fence back here. Let me see what it looks like tilted a slight bit. Oh, this is your image, Wahab. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. So this was f3.5 for 15 seconds with a 28 millimeter, the 14 to 42 kit lens on an EM10 Mark II. So I feel like let me see. I just want to look and see if this can help my eye a little bit. I think tilting is the wrong way to go. I have to do a skewing type thing. Because this is almost an architectural shot because of that wall, at least to my eye. That tilting didn't work. It does need a little bit of a tilt though. Just a tiny bit maybe. And then, you know, with astro type shots like star trails, I like to crush the blacks in the sky so that the stars really pop. So I'm going to try and do that first. Sorry, I was trying to read comments while I was editing. So let me bring in some light first and then see if I can take out some of the light. Maybe right there. I might need to actually curve it. Oops, I lost it, right? Oh, I really need a gradient filter here. Let me do that. Now let me apply a gradient. So what I'm trying to do is not crush the blacks in here too much, but bring the blacks in this a little bit better. Why did I select high key? I have no idea. Hold on. No. All right. I'm going to bring this up. I don't think I can blacken the skies with Workspace. I think that's all I can do here. And then just cool off the white balance because it looks a little bit artificial. I mean, it is artificial lighting, but I either want to exaggerate that or I need to make a marker here. Okay. I think that's all I would do. Let's see if there's any suggestions. I want to redo this shot with all the observations. Okay. Yeah, mosquitoes. Oh my God. I got the best bug zapper ever though. I haven't had any mosquito issues. Usually I'm like eaten alive by now. Do either of you have a panning device for long exposures you can recommend? I do not. I think it would be awesome to see a focus type of picture like William is asking. Okay, I'll go back to William's question. Sounds like this live stream needs to be repurposed so it's editing and diagnostic where we look at technical issues as well as plain picture editing. Yeah, that's my perspective on it. Because like I said, I'm not one to really critique somebody's image creatively or story-wise. Okay, William Wright says, next time can I submit a series of images for focus stack? I have issues with blurry image when they are stacked, so I can't. Yes. Go ahead and submit them, but they need to be of the same image, obviously. Yeah, give it a shot. And then send me an email to rob@robtrek.com and just let me know that you sent a stack series. Just as a reminder or kind of a mental aid for me. But anyway, this image here, I think this is all I would do. I don't see compositionally what else I can do. Because the stars circle here, they don't, I'm not sure what the subject here is. Is it the stars or the bike? Or because the bike doesn't really complement the stars here. So I'm not sure we even need much of the bike in here. I don't know if I can crop this. Yeah, Wahab, I would have definitely tried a different angle on this bike, looking up at the stars so that this fence wouldn't be in the image. Just a little bit of these trees, but most of the bike. So you could have put the camera down near where the kickstand is on this bike, or just a little bit further off from the kickstand, but put it down on the floor and point up at the sky. And I think that would have been a lot more interesting picture. Because the way it is now, the way it's composed now with that wall in the background, now you have two competing subjects, the bicycle and the sky. But if you I think if you went from the bottom up, it would have been more interesting. Because then you would lose the light on this tree, because this light here is distracting, and this light. So I would have got down low so that nothing is in the image except this bicycle and maybe the tops of these trees potentially. And that's how I would have framed this differently. But I think that's what I would have done differently. Okay, but yeah, Rick's asking if this is a technical question or is this a photo question, because the image is not working. But I think that's why it's not working. It's just the bike is the subject, or the sky. It doesn't work. It has to be just the bike and the sky and no wall. Then it would be more interesting. All right, let's move on to the next one. Wow, I love this image. This is this is from Wahab again. This is this is a Nikon D5300 with the kit lens, 18 to 55, f5.6, 1/100th of a second, ISO 250. I wouldn't change anything here. I like it. It feels slightly crooked, but yeah, when I look at it straight on, it seems okay. I can't see anything I would change here. I'd like to see his eyes a little bit with a little more pop. So I would bring the eyes out a little more. You know, with either specular or just brighten them up slightly. I don't think it's something I can do here very well, because the image is pretty much exposed. Maybe just add a little more contrast. But it doesn't even need that too much. Maybe just some sharpness to bring out some more wrinkles. But yeah, the shoulder here is good. Down here is good. There's a little bit of vignette. I think the vignette's okay. I like it. I like it, Wahab. Everything is perfect here. I mean, I added a touch more contrast, but it's not that it's not really doing anything for the image by me doing that. I mean, the only thing that I might do that's remotely interesting is maybe some split toning. Where I just go into the individual channels. So let me bring some reds into the highlights. And I'll go to the blue channel and just make the shadows more blue. Go back to the red channel. Need a little bit of more green in the highlights. Yeah, that doesn't look good at all. Because I clipped it there. Honestly, I think we're good. Good job. We'll move on. Unless anyone has any suggestions, but I don't see. Yeah, I love this smile. Yeah, it's a great shot. All right, let's see. We have one here from James. I haven't seen you chime in yet, James. Hopefully you're here, but if not, this is another great image. I like this train. Looks like it's a subway station. So you have a train blurring here. The person's blurred. And this person's just kind of waiting, right? They're standing there. What is this? This is a 1/8 of a second exposure. Wow. Wow, another good image. I wouldn't change anything on this edit if it were even my own image. This is good as is, in my opinion. Yeah, good shot. Good shot, James. There's just nothing I would do here. Right, Roman? It looks great. I like it. I mean, I don't know if this side of the image adds much to it other than recomposing this part, so I might do a square crop. But that's it. I mean, that's the only thing I would do to this if I did anything at all, and this doesn't really need anything. It's a really very high contrast image. Dehaze sometimes brings in some nice tones in the black and whites, so I would do that. So let's do before and after, but that's all I would do. Some a very quick edit, and it doesn't really even need to be squared off. It's fine the way it is. But I think the symmetry of this blurry, this being sharp is kind of interesting. And I'm wondering if I should take this bottom part out. Maybe I'll just crop it a tiny bit more. Let's but yeah, I think that's all I would do. And just make it symmetrical or square it off. Take off that bottom black bar. Because it doesn't need too much framing. Okay, let's move on. Nice picture, James. Yeah, the full image gives more impression of movement. Yeah, I agree. The cropping really isn't necessary, right, on this one. Yeah, I think this is a good image the way it is. I wouldn't actually, yeah, I wouldn't square crop it either. I think, yeah, Dave's right. You need to have all of the image in there to make it work. I just might crop off this one piece down here, the bottom half. I think that black bar in the bottom is the only thing I would crop out. But that's it. Okay, now we can move on. But yeah, nice shot. Yeah, everybody's images are pretty awesome today, right? This is from Elaine. Oh, okay. I haven't seen Elaine come in today, but nice shot. She submitted this. These are from last week, I think, or at least this one is. She submitted this kind of after the fact, after the stream was almost done. Um, I like how the glasses are kind of lighting up his eyes. That's kind of a cool effect. Let me look at this full screen. I wonder. I don't think there's anything else I can do with this one either. Wow, this is gonna be a short photo editing session today. Everybody's sending just images that are just fine. This is a nice shot. I really like how the eyes are lit up here. I guess like a camera lens is focusing the light just right around in that area. Poor hubby. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Let's see, we have one here by Dicky Ferlanda. Olympus 40 to 150 f2.8 with the EM1 Mark III. 1/5000th of a second. f3.2 at ISO 250. Wow. This is interesting. I like the shadow hitting here. We have two birds. Then we have this really beautiful roof line here. I don't think this background adds anything other than it gives you a sense of how high up the birds are relative to the ground, because without this in the background, I wouldn't know that this is probably pretty high up. So maybe you're in a building across the street from this one on a very high floor, and you know, you're probably about 4 or 5 stories up. And the lighting is good. Nice side lighting. Because it's really making beautiful textures on this roof line as well. This is a tough one for me. Because all the action's right in here with this shadow and this bird. Yeah, just a little bit more to the left because he's kind of getting cut in half, right, Dave? let me just see if I can still. Yeah, I think this would still work. Because we still get that depth and sense of height, I think, because of this in the background, without because I think if I cropped in too close, you would not get that sense. I mean, we're losing a little bit of that sense already. Let me try that. Oh, wait. I think this works right here. This is what I would do. Very, very tight square crop. Right there. This, to me, is an interesting image. Because I'm not sure we need to see this other bird, because the fact that the bird's kind of cut out, because if I cropped it this way, I don't know why, but I like this image better right here. And let me come up a little bit. He needs a little more headroom. It's a little bit tight. I would do this, and I'm going to crop out this. I'm going to get rid of this wing like that. And then let me fix the exposure a little bit so we can see the birds. So we'll bring, oops, wrong channel. Right there. And bring up the shadows a tiny bit. But increase the contrast. Oh, I wish I could do it without messing up this bird. I like this. I really need a different kind of tone curve here. And I'm starting to think I don't even need this bird in the shot. I kind of like just this part. I know I'm like totally destroying this image, but this is what I like, is this part right here. Let me go a little bit wider. And then we'll go monochrome. Add some ton of dehaze and then I'm going to add some contrast back in. Turn this off. I mean, call me crazy, but this is the image I like out of that shot. Let's see if the before and after works. I mean, of all the elements in this image, there's a lot of good elements here, right? You have a sense of height and depth in the original image here above me. And then you have this action of this bird flying and creating this really interesting shadow. And I love the shadows in the roof line, right? The shading and the textures, everything in here, in this red in the roof. So there's kind of, to me, but they don't work well together overall. Like the roof line doesn't complement the birds. I mean, it might work on this bird alone. Like this might be a separate shot. But this shadow, I think, is the neatest thing in the image. I don't know. What do you guys think? Whose picture is this? This is Dickie's. Yeah, but I think this is where I would go. Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks, Dave. I think that's where I would go with this. Because this is not an exotic bird. This is like just one of those sparrows or something, right? All right, let's go to the next one. Well, let me look at this one more time by itself. Yeah, this is where I would go with this one. Yeah, the second bird above. Rick says the second bird above helps tell the story a little bit, but I don't think enough. It's not doing anything. Let me look. Yeah, I think my challenge with this bird, it wasn't because of the story, it was because of the exposure. for me to get a nice black shadow here and maintain the exposure on this bird, let me just try this just for the sake of it. Because I can maybe live without the shadow being so dark. So I'll turn this back on. This kind of works. I gotta turn the contrast back off. Where's this? Okay, Paul, we'll see you later. I mean, this works too, I think, Rick. It does kind of work this way. But yeah, you would, like you say, you would need a different editor so I can work on this bird separately from this shadow and then have two different kinds of exposures in the same image. But as it is, that's all I can do with it. All right. All right, another bird image here. This one from Des. Okay, and Des was here earlier. So we're at ISO 200 at 4/1/1000th of a second. He dialed in a -3 EV. And he has the 14-150 f2.8 Pro lens with a MC14 teleconverter on the EM5 Mark III. And he zoomed into 80 millimeters, looks like. Or 160 millimeter, 35 millimeter quick. But anyway, 80 millimeters on this lens. And I feel like there's an art filter applied here, very like a vintage 2, because it's very green. I think Des sent in another image that was kind of green. These green tones give me that, you know, we're in the Matrix feeling. So this needs a little bit of straightening and cropping. But yeah, man, this lens is amazing. I just can't believe the detail you get in this. And this is already cropped down to like 3 megapixels, this image. So Des has already cropped this image. He's sending me a JPEG, and this thing is still retaining amazing sharpness. God, that lens. I want this lens more than the 60 macro. Yeah, vintage 3. Okay, vintage 3. All right. I don't know if I would apply the vintage to this image, but I would just warm it up a tad. And then maybe just one notch there. And then if you want to stay with that vintage look, we can use that vintage, but bring some contrast back in, and tiny bit of light here. Oh, Rick convinced you to get that lens? Yeah, it is a really good lens. We'll pull back the highlight one notch, maybe one more notch. All right, now let me crop and straighten this a little bit because that's kind of hitting me a little bit. But whenever I do animals, I usually like to get the eyes kind of level. Regardless of how they're standing and the rest of the scene, I usually like to at least get unless they're intentionally tilting their head somehow, but I think this is where I would crop it. Something closer to this. And this side's a little bit bright. Let me add a little more saturation because I like the color in the bird here. I might have to do it on the color wheel. Let me crank some reds in. Am I on saturation? Okay. Tiny bit more yellow. Okay. Just a little bit different crop. I hate to keep cropping on an image that's already cropped a lot. But right there, just to get rid of that one, and yeah, a little bit more straightening now that I'm cropped in. Yeah, right there. All right, that's what I would do. So here's a before and after. So yeah, I just, we're using the vintage colors generally speaking, but we're taking away all the softness that a vintage art filter brings in. Because the vintage filters, they take away a little bit of sharpness and a little, yeah, that's the other thing. I forgot. We should add the sharpness back in. Um, but vintage filters typically they change the tone curve on the individual color channels to get that effect, right? Uh, and it desaturates slightly as well, and then it softens the image, and then it maybe applies a vignette sometimes and some grain. But if you want to keep that vintage look from the Vintage 3 filter, then really all you have to do to this image, I think, is just add the contrast back in. And now we gotta, I think this image works. I over sharpened it slightly. I can dial that back. Shoot. Let me just, there. Is that unsharpened now? This lens is already so sharp, it doesn't need much more, but partially because I'm cropped in so much that the sharpening, it gets over sharpened very quickly, but I think this looks good now. All right, that's a good shot. Let's go to the next one. What is going on here? Oh, that's a shadow. Okay, it wasn't immediately obvious. So this is a wall. I was thinking maybe it was a background, right? Like a horizon, but it's not a horizon. This is a wall and a shadow. And the white balance is, so I think this wall is painted yellow. God, this is weird. Because the white balance is a little bit warm, but it's not this warm. So this wall is a yellow painted wall. We got this little red accent of a sign. What's this down here? Some alien hiding down here. I don't know what that is. And I'm just trying to find something interesting in this picture because there's a lot of things going on. And this is from Stefan. And this is at ISO 200 f5, 1/2500th of a second, 134 millimeters on a Lumix 45 to 200 f4 on the M10 Mark II. And this is the full uncropped image, it looks like, the full 16 megapixel image. Yeah, major candidate for auto white balance. That's funny. I'm gonna come to the white balance last because over here it's still warm, but it's not bad. Well, okay, let's straighten this first. I gotta straighten it before I do anything else. So this pole's a little bit crooked relative to the wall. Okay, I think that's better. And this is a little distracting here on the left side. The shadow is interesting. I'm trying to think. I like this red accent here. There's a little bit of red here. I like this shadow, but this tree is not that interesting. But the shadow it's making is. So I think I'm going to crop in again really tight and just capture this area in here. So, but there's some good empty space up in here too, but the tree by itself is not that interesting. So I'm thinking actually a very, very tight crop again with just the elements that stand out to me. I need a smaller number in front here. Let me see what that looks like. Oh, that's total crap. But I like this sign here. Let me see what happens. This sign needs to be recomposed differently. I just don't. Okay, that's better. Because there is some interesting things going on here. And so we still got the shadow in the tree. We got this little alien down here, some alien rocks, and then we got this sign, which is the only thing that interests me in this whole picture. Kind of like the bird picture, like 2% of the image was interesting. This is a tough one. Let me cool it off a tiny bit. And bring some of the color back. I'm sorry, the luminance. All right, we're getting there. Now, let's see. I think an art filter. What if we really punch the colors here? No. This one. What's the other one that does good with color? It's the maybe we'll do a partial color 1. Pick red. Yeah. I wish I could get a little bit more yellow in here. But the yellows and red are too far apart. Right? I'm a little torn between these two. Okay, William, go cut the grass. All right, but thanks for coming in. All right, let me work on this saturation now. I like this, but it's a I don't like the fact that I lost the yellow on this wall, but that's okay. I have to pick one. Maybe I can bring it back in with white balance. Nope. That's too blue. All right. I think this is what I would do with this image. Maybe I should crop this part out. Let me see. No, that doesn't give enough. I need a little more headroom with the little sign here. How come it's not going back up? Right there. All right, this is what I would do. Let me work on the exposure a little bit. I need a little bit more shadow detail. Oh, let's see. Maybe I can do it with a curve. All right. That's my edit, final edit. So let's do a before and after. Nobody had any feedback on this, huh? Okay, but yeah, this tree by itself it doesn't mesh well with its own shadow. And this needs to be cropped out regardless. And then just a little bit of straightening. But ultimately my eye was just drawn to this side of the picture because there's a lot of nice contrasting colors here. You know, we got red on yellow, green on yellow. We have this little red splash right here, and then we have this kind of bluish pole. And then applying a partial color filter, it's a little bit too strong. I wish I could have kept more yellow here in this. That's what I gotta do. I think maybe that would work. Let's see, then I get too much yellow in here. So I think my original I think that's all I can do here. I think that's all I can do. So that at least when you look at this image now, you're trying to figure out what is going on down here, what's going on with this, and what the heck does this sign mean, right? So there's a lot of questions in this image now, whereas before, you know, there's no questions in my mind what's going on. But okay, let's move on to the next one. But an interesting shot, Stefan. A lot of interesting things in this, but you need to be able to train your eye on just the one thing that works. Or, you know, like this sign is the only thing super interesting in this picture. What do we got? A snake behind some grass. God, that's a mean looking snake, like a rattlesnake or something. Whew, man, I'd be 100 feet away from this in 2 seconds. Let me tell you. Okay, we just need to show the snake more. It's just not a good shot of the snake because it's behind all this grass. So clarity and dehaze, basically. Just like that. And then where's my tone curve? Bring some blacks in. Pull the shadows back up. A little more dehaze. Where did it go? And then, oh, we don't have any color wheel adjustment here, so let's add the contrast back in since I brought the shadows up. Okay. And then let's vignette some of that green grass. I guess I could crop it too, but let me vignette some of that out. Oh, that's too strong. So I'm going to do a crop. We'll do a square crop on this. Yeah, that's it. I think black and white would make it difficult to see the snake, but I'm going to try it. Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to go back to color. I'm trying to see if there's a way we can bring out some of the browns in this. Just warm it up slightly. Okay. This was taken with the 75 to 300. Wow, at 550 millimeters, which is what, 225 or 275? Okay, let's add a little sharpness back in. And I think we're good. Let's see how that looks before and after. Very subtle, but yeah, the challenge here is the snake is behind all this grass. There's not much I can do. The only other thing is maybe one of these tone-like art filters, like dramatic tone, that might, where is it? That might bring it out more, but I'm a little leery of it. Yeah, it's a little bit too much. And the only other one is the pop filter. That helped a little bit. But yeah, this is not one of those keeper shots in my opinion because of all the grass. I mean, it's kind of a neat shot that you can say, "Oh, I caught a snake today." But it's not it's just technically not a good picture because of all the grass. But that's all I can do there. Let's go to the next one. Interesting though. Oh wow, this must be Paul's image. Yeah, of course. Must be so nice to wake up every morning to like this. I bet this is off his balcony. 40 to 150 kit lens on the EM10 Mark II, f5.6 1/160th. God, this 40 to 150 lens is amazing. I would I would make this more of the subject here. I like the clouds and everything. Let me try something. Yeah, that's killing it. I just don't like this. I don't like the way the clouds end here. I'd rather crop in right there. Like that. Let me look at this here. I wonder. Ouch. No, that's too much. Okay, that feels better. Let me make sure I'm not losing too much here. I might need to go to a taller crop, but yeah, I like this crop better. Maybe not this tree. Let me try. Okay, I like this crop better. And I think other than that, everything is processed really well. I like how the gold has been brought out. And you know what? This looks like the same image he took, but from a different angle. This is the same thing, building or structure. This looks like a church or something with that cross on top. But anyhow, yeah, I like the colors, the blues and the gold. Let me see the curve here. What if I feel like that's too much? Right about there. And I would, if anything, I would pull the saturation back a little bit. Because they're just a little bit too strong. And that's all I would do. See what, maybe bring a little more contrast back in this way. There we go. All right, Paul, nice. Yeah, this is how I would crop it and edit it. Just pull the saturation back a tiny bit, but exposure and everything else looks really good here. And sometimes, you know, I'm tempted to use the haze to maybe bring the clouds in a little better. Let me try that real quick. I'm trying to avoid it because I like the haziness in the mountains. Yeah, okay, just a little bit. All right, that's my final edit. I think it's just a tiny bit brighter and slight drop in the saturation, then a little bit of contrast. That looks really good, but beautiful shot. But yeah, this tower looks familiar. Okay, let's move on. This is a shadow on some brick. This is from Deb. Auto white balance ISO 200 f14. Interesting. Why would you do f14? At 1/125th of a second, plus 3 EV exposure comp, 12 to 40 Pro lens on an EM5 Mark II. This is all shadow. I think the problem here is the angle. I just don't like, excuse me, I don't like this weird angle. Because the shot is kind of interesting otherwise. But it's this angle. I'd have to back up and see the whole scene and see what else is in around here that would complement this shadow. Because the shadow on the brick wall by itself is just, at this angle, is not that interesting. So what I'm going to do is just take out all the color. Because there's no colors in it that help at all. And then let's add some grit. Let's make that brick darker. Whoops. So we'll use a green filter. That should bring out some, and by darker I meant a little more contrast, so we'll do that and some clarity. I'm going to see if I can salvage something from this. And I don't think this helps a whole lot, but and because the bottom is not captured, I'm going to crop it out like this. Let me see how that looks. Oof. Yeah, I don't have anything else I can do here. Let me see what a watercolor looks like. I'm just curious. Totally blown out. What if we bleach it? All right, I think this is all I can do. It needs a little bit of the skewing. Where's my skewing filters? Let's see. A little bit over this way. And I'm done. We'll wait for this hourglass to finish. This a raw image? Yeah. I don't know why my raw images are taking a while to process lately. Okay, so let's look at the before and after. Yeah, this is all I can do, Deb. This is just not a good angle for this subject. I think there's potential here for the shot. I just don't like this really off skewing kind of problem. Yeah, I like this better. Yeah, there's good texture in the brickwork. I mean, I like all of that in here. But yeah, I'm not sure what I'd have to go. I'd have to be there and work the scene a little bit. So work that scene a little bit. If this is like your house or something, you know, go back and work this scene a little bit because there's some potential here. All right, let's move on. Okay, nice. A nice shot. This needs to be wide though because the sky is black, so it's not doing anything. But I like this. Is that a dude there? Yep. Pushing a baby stroller. A person, I should say, is there. And I like this subway. So what's this? The Lumix 20mm f1.7 lens at 1/6 of a second on a Pen F. And this one person here. I think I'm gonna crop this. So let's put a pop art filter. Let's crop this to at least a 16:9, if not tighter. Let me see, a 16:7. Like that. It might be too tight. Let me go 16:9. And pop art did just a bit too much, but let me look at the histogram. I got some room here. I'm going to desaturate a little bit. Okay. And then cool it off a tiny bit, because night images, I like to have a slight cool color to it. Like so. Bring the highlights back in. This way, and I killed it in the curves here, so let me take these back out right there. And it needs a slight tilt this way, I think. Let me. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's all I would do there. This is John Allen's picture. I thought I saw him earlier today. I wish I could bring the shadows in. Let me crank the shadows up a little bit and see. Yeah. Now we can see this person here. And there's a little bit too much magenta. Let me pull some of that out. And I gotta put the contrast back in. Okay. All right, I think I see the contrast points I want. Hold on. All right. I feel like that's all I would do here. Maybe a tiny bit contrast or saturation back in. Yikes, that's too much. All right, let's compare. I actually like the white balance on the original, but then I like the coolness of it too. Yeah, I think I'll just keep the white balance where I have it set. I like it a little bit cooler. You know, this blueness going in here. It doesn't contrast this color too well though. The problem with the color, see the color from here to here is a little better match than it is on mine from here to here. But I think ultimately I still like this a little better. Oh, there's a little stand over here too. That would have been this would be a cool shot. Man, if you could have moved over to the right a little bit, I think you missed a good opportunity right in here with this person walking next to this little stand. And there's a lot of interesting things inside here too. There's another person there. Okay, I think that works. I mean, I think this, yeah, there's just a, yeah, I think it works. I mean, this image has a lot of potential, like in a decent photo editor where you can brush and layer and mask and things. You could do a lot more with it. But as it is, the good thing is you captured this image just right to begin with. Just about right. I would have maybe exposed it a little, well, you'd have lost your highlights. So I think you captured this just about perfectly for it to be edited really well. All right, I think this is the last one. Squirrel. This is like the squirrel shot I had earlier, eating a piece of bread. The tail's cut off, so I would just cut out, I would just focus right in here. I think I'll just crop this. This just needs a square crop. And then a little bit of warming and brightness. Let's see. And let me warm it up. Well, actually, I got a lot of room here. Okay, and then just add a tiny bit of warmth. Well, I like these claws. He's got a really good grip on that piece of bread, doesn't he? I'm wondering if I should just crop right in here, because I like the hand and I like the very alertness of a squirrel, right? Look at those ears, just hardcore, man, like on lookout. So I'm going in tight because I want to capture that. put the sharpness back in. All right. Oh, hey, Uncle BMW, how are you? I think that's all I would do here. Because now I can see the claws that are kind of interesting. And the fact that his ears are on, full alert and his eyes are wide open. I think this captures the moment. So there's my before and after. Because this whole image is just a squirrel eating a piece of bread, right? Which is kind of fascinating by itself. But I think when you punch in a little bit, you can see really what's going on with this squirrel, right? You can see he's very alert. Okay, that was the last one. I think, did we decide to look at something from some Roman or somebody, right? Let me see if anything new came in real quick. Otherwise, I might have to save it for the next one. Oh, Roman's panning image. My God, that's a wreck. Let me show you guys this. Hold on. Yeah, you sent a bad one, all right, Roman. I'm not even going to download it. It's so bad. Hold on. How do I get this to show? No, not that. Hold on. Here we go. That's a terrible panning job. My God, you didn't pan at all, did you? Hold on. There's streaking here. There's a streak here. All right, I'm gonna have to practice some panning. But honestly, Roman, I don't think I've ever taken one this bad myself. You're doing something wrong. I mean, the fact that the panning is bent it's like you just did like what's this exposure at? Anyway, this looks like about maybe a 2-second exposure, but you need to rotate at the waist or something. It's like you're trying to pan with your arms, and that's the worst way. You want to hold tight and pan at the waist. I think that's a better way to pan, because I think you're panning like with your arms, and that's why you're getting this arch. That's one problem. Maybe Rick can give some feedback on that. Let me see. I'm totally out of. Yeah, keep trying. You were panning that with a tripod. Or were you panning handheld with that, or were you panning with a tripod? I'm a little bit confused. Oh, my green screen is off, but yeah, I'll look into panning a little bit, about how to, some good techniques for panning. I mean, I've gotten some decent panning shots, but it's not my thing. Yeah, it was from your hand, right? I think panning from a tripod would be difficult, though. Because you'd have to hold the tripod and the camera at the same time, and I think that would introduce some. Because you can get those tripods that have the like video tripods that are designed for panning, but those are designed for recording recording video, not for panning photography. I don't know how that would work. But I think, yeah, I think you need a video head tripod if you want to do panning with a tripod. It would just be kind of awkward rotating the base on a ball head. But yeah, you know, Roman, submit that to the forum on my forum. Rick is a very experienced action photographer. You know, he does panning, you know, in his sleep practically. So he would have some excellent tips on that. Yeah, the focusing you missed a little bit too, obviously, but that is the least of the problems of that panning shot. uh, you would need the pre-focus, right, on whatever you want the panning action to be. Obviously, it would be the car in this case. So you'd pre-focus on that part of the street and then pan at the waist. Yeah, pan F at night, not the best. Yeah, I mean that's why we're here though, right? To learn, right? To learn how to do this. Because who knows? You know, if I go out and I pan, I might get the same shot, right? I haven't really tried it myself that much. I've tried once or twice and they came out okay. But I haven't gone out with the intent to get a panning shot, right? Like I said, I'm always an opportunistic type photographer. I just said, you know, nothing good on TV. I'm going to go out and take some pictures. That's kind of how it goes for me, right? Nothing good on TV, so I'm going to go out and take some pictures and then I just go out for a photo walk and then I don't even know where I'm going to go half the time. I just get in the car and whatever. But okay. Oh, thanks, Dave. But all right, the rest of these images I'll have to catch up. There's one here from Bob on some power lines, but I'll get that next week. And I see some birds. So there's and then Bob resubmitted another one. I guess I can talk about these real quick since they're here. Let's see. We did that one. Yeah, this one I can edit in the next one from John. And these power lines, yeah, I'll come back to these two. I'll do these on Thursday. I'm gonna call it today. So as always, dang, I keep losing track of my that hurt your eyes, sorry. Okay, but yeah, thanks again always for watching this little live stream edit and all my live streams for that matter. And I do have a list of videos in the hopper to make, but my time's going to be a little short. But submit your pictures and I'll do my best to edit them. And then with help from the chat section, you know, I think we can make most of these images into something a little more interesting. So thanks again for watching, and we'll sorry, I keep reading. We'll see you guys again on Thursday. Thanks again.